"This is our other daughter," my mother said, placing one hand on my shoulder like she was presenting a stain she couldn't scrub out. "Lena, she cleans houses for a living." The private dining room went quiet for half a second. Then my father laughed. "We've given up on her," he added, lifting his wineglass like it was a joke everyone was supposed to understand. Across the table, my sister Celeste stared down at her engagement ring and smiled at it like the diamond needed her attention more than I did. Her fiancé's family sat around us in expensive clothes, polished manners, and careful silence. I stood there in a navy dress I had paid for myself, feeling my mother's fingers tighten just enough to warn me not to correct her. Then the groom's mother stopped moving. Vivian Whittaker's champagne glass hovered above the table. Her face drained of warmth, but not with disgust. With recognition. She looked straight at me and whispered, "Wait, you're..." And then she fell silent. My mother's hand slipped off my shoulder. No one laughed after that. The dinner had been arranged as Celeste's perfect first step into the Whittaker family. White roses on the table, crystal glasses, a private room with dark wood walls, and a waiter who seemed trained to disappear before anyone had to ask. My parents had spent the week reminding me what to wear, what not to say, and how important it was that I blend into the background. Celeste, of course, was glowing. She wore white silk and kept tilting her hand so the ring caught the light. Andrew Whittaker sat beside her, smiling at her like he had no idea he was about to marry into a family that survived by deciding which daughter was useful and which one was disposable. I had almost not come, but my mother had called 3 times that afternoon. "Celeste wants her sister there," she'd said. What she meant was Celeste wanted witnesses. She wanted everyone to see the contrast. The successful daughter engaged to a Whittaker, and the disappointing one who could be introduced as hired help. A cousin near the end of the table leaned toward another and whispered, "Honestly, she should be grateful they invited her." I heard it. My mother heard it too. She smiled. I kept my hands folded in front of me, the way I had learned to do whenever my family turned me into a lesson. Do not react. Do not embarrass Celeste. Do not make Mom look cruel. But Vivian Whittaker was still staring. Andrew touched her elbow. "Mom, are you okay?" Vivian didn't answer him. Her eyes moved from my face to my mother, then to my father, whose fork had paused halfway over his plate. Celeste finally looked up, and the color vanished from her face before Vivian said another word. That was when I understood. Vivian didn't just recognize me. She recognized something my family had buried. And the only question was why the groom's mother knew the daughter they had just dismissed as the house cleaner. I excused myself before anyone could ask the question out loud. "I need a minute," I said, though my voice barely made it past the rim of my glass. My mother's eyes snapped toward me. That look meant stay. For once, I didn't. I walked out of the private dining room and into the narrow hallway near the restrooms, where the music from the restaurant became softer and the air smelled faintly of lemon polish. I pressed my palm against the wall and tried to breathe before my family could turn Vivian's reaction into my fault. The door opened behind me. I didn't have to turn around to know it was Celeste. Her heels hit the floor too fast, too sharp. "What did you do?" she hissed. I turned. Celeste was standing there in her white silk dress, one hand clenched around her phone, the other pressed against the engagement ring like she was afraid it might disappear. "I didn't do anything," I said. "You didn't tell them anything, did you?" That stopped me. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm sorry Mom said that." Just panic. I looked at my sister's face, at the perfect makeup already cracking around her eyes. "Tell them what, Celeste?" Her mouth opened, then closed. For a second, she looked like the little girl who used to sneak into my room after breaking something and ask me to help before Dad got home. Then her expression hardened. "Don't start," she whispered. "Not tonight. I didn't come here to ruin your engagement." "Then don't." She stepped closer, lowering her voice as if the walls might report back to Andrew. You know what his family is like. They care about reputation. They care about history. One awkward comment from you, and suddenly we all look trashy. I almost laughed. Wait, that was always how Celeste said it when she meant me. You let Mom introduce me like that, I said. Celeste looked past me toward the dining room door. She said you clean houses. You do. I own the company. Her eyes flicked back to mine. There it was, she knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. I said, she could have said I run an estate management business. She could have said I work with private clients. She could have said anything besides making me sound like a family embarrassment. Celeste's jaw tightened. Why do you always need credit? The words landed with the weight of years. I thought about the college acceptance letter I never framed, the semester I left halfway through, the temporary cleaning jobs that became the story my parents told everyone because the real reason I left would have exposed what Celeste had done. The debt, the panic, the night my mother cried at the kitchen table and told me, "Your sister has a future, Lena. You're stronger than she is." Back then, I thought strong meant loved. It only meant useful. I stepped closer to Celeste. Why did Vivian Whittaker recognize me? Her throat moved. Answer me. She probably remembers you from her house. That's not what I asked. Celeste's eyes flashed. Fine, maybe she remembers some old drama, maybe she's confused. Her husband died, Lena. People get attached to things. Things like what? Before she could answer, my mother appeared at the end of the hallway. Diane Marlowe never rushed. Even angry, she moved like she expected the world to clear a path for her. What is going on? She asked, though her eyes were only on me. Celeste immediately folded into the role she played best. I was trying to calm her down. I stared at her. My mother's lips thinned. Lena, you're going to walk back into that room, smile, and stop acting wounded over the truth. The truth? I asked. Yes, the truth. You clean houses. I built a business. My mother stepped close enough for me to smell her perfume. Do not dress it up because Andrew's family is wealthy. Celeste looked at the floor. I said, why are you both scared of Vivian? My mother's face didn't change, but her eyes did. A small shift, a warning. You listen to me, she said. Your sister's future is at stake. If you embarrass her tonight, if you make this dinner about your resentment, you will not be part of this family anymore. There it was. The same door they had held open over my head for years. Obey or be left outside. Normally, I would have apologized just to end the moment. But back in that dining room, Vivian Whittaker had looked at me like I was not invisible, like I had a name before my mother tried to shrink it. So I lifted my chin. Then maybe, I said, you should stop lying about what the truth is. My mother's hand rose. Not high, not dramatic, just enough for Celeste to inhale sharply. Then a waiter appeared at the end of the hallway. Excuse me, he said carefully. Miss Marlowe, you left your purse at the table. He held it out. The clasp had fallen open. Inside, right on top, was my silver card holder. One embossed business card had slid halfway free. Marlowe Estate Services. Founder. Celeste's eyes dropped to it. My mother moved faster. She snatched the card from the purse before Celeste could touch it, crushed it in her fist, and smiled at the waiter like nothing had happened. My mother walked me back into the private dining room with my business card still crumpled in her fist. Her smile returned before we reached the table. That was Diane Marlowe's talent. She could humiliate you in a hallway and look elegant doing it 10 seconds later. There we are, she said brightly, sliding into her chair. Just a little sisterly emotion. Weddings bring that out, don't they? Celeste sat down beside Andrew, but she didn't lean into him the way she had earlier. She kept both hands in her lap, twisting the engagement ring around her finger. I remained standing for 1 extra second. Long enough for Vivian Whittaker to notice. Long enough for my mother to whisper through her teeth, "Sit." So I did. The waiter returned with the next course, but nobody picked up their forks right away. The room had changed. The roses looked too white. The glasses sounded too loud. Everyone seemed suddenly aware that something had been pulled to the surface and shoved back under too quickly. Andrew's father, Thomas Whittaker, cleared his throat. "So, Lena," he said, kindly enough, "your mother mentioned you work in homes." My mother answered before I could. "She does basic cleaning," she said, cutting a piece of fish with tiny, precise movements. "Mostly for older women who feel sorry for her. It keeps her busy." A few people shifted in their seats. My father gave a short laugh. Nothing wrong with honest work, of course, but Lena has always had a habit of making small things sound bigger. My fork rested untouched beside my plate. Across from me, Vivian lifted her eyes. "She does not do basic cleaning," she said. The words were quiet, but they hit the table like a dropped plate. My mother's knife stopped moving. Vivian turned slightly toward Andrew's father, not toward my parents, as if she had already decided who deserved the explanation. "Lena manages private residences," she said. "Homes with staff, inventories, insurance concerns, security codes, preservation issues. She coordinates vendors, documents valuables, supervises access, and handles matters most families would not trust to relatives." My cousin's whispering stopped. Vivian looked at me then, and for the first time all night, someone at that table gave me the dignity of my full work. "She has handled properties worth more than this restaurant." My mother laughed too quickly. It came out thin and sharp. "Oh, Vivian, I'm sure you're thinking of someone else. Lena sometimes exaggerates. She always has." Vivian's expression did not move. "I am not confused." Celeste reached for her water glass, but missed the stem. Vivian continued. "I trusted her inside my home when I did not trust people I had known for 20 years. Andrew turned slowly toward Celeste. "You knew your sister owned a company." Celeste blinked. I mean, she never explained it like that." I looked at her. "You never asked." My father leaned back, trying to reclaim the easy tone he used when he wanted a room to follow him. "Well, managing rich people's dust is still dust," he said. "Let's not turn housekeeping into high finance." No one laughed. Not even my mother. Vivian's face changed then, not loudly, not dramatically, but something closed in her. "The work Lena did for me had nothing to do with dust." My father's smile twitched. Vivian folded her napkin beside her plate. "It was after my husband died." Andrew looked at his mother immediately. "Mom." "It's all right," she said, without taking her eyes off my father. "Some things should have been discussed before tonight." Celeste's water glass tipped over. The splash spread across the white tablecloth, soaking the edge of her place card and running toward Andrew's sleeve. He grabbed a napkin, but Celeste didn't move. She was staring at me now, silently, desperately. "Please." That was what her eyes said. "Please don't." My father stood halfway from his chair. "I think this conversation is becoming inappropriate," he said. "Tonight is about Andrew and Celeste, not old misunderstandings, so let's raise a glass to the happy couple." He lifted his champagne. My mother lifted hers immediately. Celeste's hand shook as she reached for her glass. Vivian did not move. Neither did I. The silence stretched until even the waiter at the door froze with a tray in his hands. Then Vivian looked at my sister. "Before anyone toasts," she said, "Celeste should explain why my husband's watch was listed for sale under her father's account." Andrew's champagne glass lowered so slowly that the rim tapped against the table. No one spoke. Celeste's face had gone perfectly blank, like she was waiting for someone else to hand her the correct expression. Then she whispered, "That was years ago." The room changed again. It was no longer suspicion. It was confirmation. Andrew turned toward her. "What was years ago?" Celeste swallowed. "Nothing. I mean, I don't know what your mother thinks she knows." Vivian's hands remained folded beside her untouched glass. "I know exactly what I know." My father pushed back his chair. "Vivian," he said, using the soft, patient voice he reserved for clients he thought he could manage. "You were grieving. I understand that, but grief can make people misremember details." Andrew's father looked at him. "Robert." My mother reached across the table, fingers brushing the edge of my father's sleeve. "This is not the place for business accusations. We're here to celebrate our children." "Our children," Vivian repeated. Just those two words made my mother sit back. I felt my pulse in my throat as pieces began clicking together. Celeste following me into the hallway, my mother crushing my business card, my father trying to bury the conversation under a toast, Vivian recognizing me not as a cleaner, but as a witness. I had known this could happen one day. I just never thought it would happen at Celeste's engagement dinner, with white roses between us and her ring still bright under the chandelier. Andrew looked from his mother to Celeste. "Somebody tell me what this is." Vivian finally turned to him. "After your father died," she said, "I hired Lena to help organize the house, not because I needed someone to wipe counters, because I could not walk into his study without losing my balance." Andrew's jaw tightened. She cataloged documents, photographs, personal items, insurance files, things I could not face yet. My father cut in, and she misunderstood what she saw. Vivian did not look at him. No, she documented what she saw. Celeste's fingers gripped the tablecloth. Vivian continued. "Several items from my husband's estate were miscatalogued before a private sale. Valuable pieces were described as ordinary. One of those pieces was his watch, the one he wore the day Andrew was born." Andrew's face changed. Not anger first. Hurt. He looked at Celeste, as if she had moved farther away while sitting right beside him. Vivian said, "That watch appeared in a listing connected to Robert's company." My father's chair scraped as he stood fully. "It was a clerical mistake," he said. "A filing error, nothing more." Celeste nodded too fast. "I only helped with photos, that's all." My mother turned on me then. "Lena had no training," she said. "She never finished school. She saw documents she didn't understand and decided to make herself important." The old words were supposed to land like a leash. This time, they didn't. Because everyone had already heard Vivian say what my work really was. Andrew leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes fixed on Celeste. "If it was nothing," he asked, "why did none of you ever tell me?" Celeste opened her mouth. No sound came out. My father said, "Andrew, son." "I'm not your son," Andrew said. The room went still again, sharper this time. Vivian looked at me then, and her voice softened for the first time all night. "Lena found the discrepancy before the sale closed. She brought it to me quietly. She refused payment for that part of the work." I looked down at my hands. Vivian added, "And she asked me not to file a complaint because someone young had made a terrible mistake." Andrew's eyes closed for 1 second. When they opened, he was looking at Celeste like he had finally heard the sentence hiding behind every silence. "She protected you," he said. Celeste stood so abruptly, her chair struck the wall behind her. "No," she snapped. "No, that's what she does. She makes herself look noble while ruining my life." "Celeste," Andrew said. "She has always wanted this," Celeste said, pointing at me. "She wanted everyone to feel sorry for her. She wanted to punish me because Mom and Dad knew I could actually become something." I stood too. Not quickly, not angrily. Just enough to stop letting her speak over me. Celeste backed toward the door, tears shining but not falling. "I'm not doing this. I'm not letting her turn my engagement into some pathetic revenge scene." She spun toward the exit. For years, I would have followed to calm her down, to save the night, to help everyone pretend. This time, I followed because I was done letting her leave with the story in her hands. I had taken 3 steps when Vivian's voice cut through the room. "Lena," she called out. I stopped. Celeste stopped too, one hand already on the door handle. Vivian's eyes stayed on mine. "Show them the email." I stopped at the doorway. Celeste's hand was still wrapped around the handle, her knuckles pale against the brass. For a moment, she did not move. No one did. The music from the bar outside drifted through the wall, soft and expensive, and completely wrong for the silence in that room. My mother spoke first. "Lena," she said carefully, don't lie. Not don't hurt your sister. Just don't." Because she knew exactly what was on my phone. I turned around and faced the table. My father's mouth was tight. Celeste's eyes were wide, fixed on me with the same look she had worn years ago in my childhood bedroom, whenever she had broken something and wanted me to hide the pieces. Vivian did not rush me. She only said, "They deserve the truth." Andrew stood slowly. "What email?" Celeste shook her head. "Andrew, please, this is humiliating." He looked at her. "So was letting your mother call your sister a house cleaner like she was nothing." That landed harder than anything I could have said. Celeste flinched, and my mother's face went red. I opened my phone. My hands were steady, which surprised me. Maybe because the shaking had already happened years ago. In a kitchen. In a parking lot. In Vivian Whittaker's quiet study, surrounded by boxes I had been paid to sort, where I found photographs that did not match the sale descriptions. I tapped the archived folder I had kept even after convincing myself I would never need it. Then I read the email aloud. "Celeste, attached are the estate photos and pricing notes. Make sure the watch is grouped with the standard pieces. The buyer already knows what it is. Your sister is asking too many questions. Keep her quiet until this clears." My father's chair creaked under him. Andrew held out his hand. "Let me see it." Celeste stepped away from him. "It's out of context." I looked at her, then explained the context. She opened her mouth. This time, no one interrupted to save her. So I did what my family had trusted I would never do. I told the whole story. "Vivian hired me after her husband died," I said. "Her house was full of things she couldn't face yet. Papers, insurance documents, photographs, personal items. I was supposed to organize and catalog them before anything was donated, stored, or sold." Vivian's eyes lowered for the first time. I continued. "One afternoon, I found a photo of the watch in Mr. Whittaker's study. It had a handwritten note beside it. Date, purchase record, appraisal information. Later that week, I saw that same watch listed in a batch of ordinary estate items through one of Dad's resale accounts." My father stood. "You are twisting this." Andrew's father rose too, calm but firm. "Sit down, Robert." My father did not sit, but he stopped talking. I looked at Celeste. "I called you first, do you remember?" Her chin trembled. "You cried," I said. "You told me Dad said it was harmless, that Vivian was wealthy, that she wouldn't notice, that the money would cover the debts you hadn't told Andrew about." Andrew turned his head, as if the words had physically pulled him toward her. "Debts?" he asked. Celeste whispered, "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I said. "You helped photograph the items. You changed descriptions on several pieces so they looked less valuable. The watch was just the one Vivian could prove, because her husband had kept records." My mother slapped her palm on the table. "Enough." Every glass jumped. But no one looked at her the way they used to. No one obeyed just because Diane Marlowe had decided a conversation was over. I faced her. "No," I said. "Not enough, not this time." Her lips parted. I kept going. "When I found out, I went to both of you. I thought you would fix it. I thought you would be horrified." I looked at my father. "You promised me the listing would be removed, the buyer would be told it was a mistake, and the watch would go back to Vivian before money changed hands." Vivian nodded once. "It did." I said, "That's the only reason I stayed quiet." Andrew's eyes moved to me. "You asked my mother not to file a complaint." "Yes." "Why?" The answer sat in my throat like something bitter. "Because Celeste begged me. Because Mom said she had a future. Because Dad said one scandal would destroy the family. Because I was told I was stronger, and what they meant was that I was easier to sacrifice. Celeste started crying then. Real tears, silent at first, sliding down over makeup that had survived the entire dinner until the truth reached her. But no one rushed to hold her. Not my mother. Not Andrew. Not even my father. My mother reached toward him instead, her fingers catching his sleeve. He pulled his arm away so sharply she froze. Andrew took my phone and read the email himself. His face changed line by line. When he finished, he passed it to his father without looking at Celeste. "I want a copy," Thomas Whitaker said. My father's voice dropped. "Let's not make decisions in anger." Vivian finally stood. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "When my husband died," she said, looking at Celeste, "I could barely enter his study. I trusted professionals because grief made me vulnerable. Lena protected me when people close to this table tried to use that vulnerability." Celeste pressed both hands over her mouth. Vivian's eyes did not soften. "Silence protected you once. It will not protect thieves twice." The word thieves moved through the room like a door locking. Andrew turned to Celeste. His face was pale, but his voice stayed even. "Give me the ring." Celeste stared at him. "Andrew." "Give it to me." My mother stood so quickly her chair tipped back. "You cannot be serious. This is a family misunderstanding." Andrew looked at her. "No, this is fraud hidden under table manners." Celeste slowly pulled the ring from her finger. For a second, she held it like she expected him to change his mind. He didn't. He took it, closed his fist around it, and stepped away from her. "The wedding is off," he said, "until lawyers sort out exactly what your family hid from mine." My father's face went gray. Not angry. Not offended. Afraid. By the next morning, Vivian's attorney had the email, the listing records, and the documentation I had saved. Robert tried to call it a clerical error, but the attached pricing notes made that impossible. Within 2 weeks, 2 of his biggest clients ended their contracts. People who once invited my parents to charity dinners suddenly became impossible to reach. My mother lost her place on the charity committee she loved more than most people. No announcement. No confrontation. Just a polite email thanking her for her years of service and making it clear she would not be needed for the next event. Celeste's version spread first, of course. She told friends I had destroyed her engagement out of jealousy. Then Andrew's family released one sentence through their attorney. The engagement had ended after financial misconduct involving the Whitaker estate came to light. After that, Celeste stopped posting. My mother called me 3 days later. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through soft and wounded, the version she used when she wanted to sound like the injured one. "Lena, families make mistakes. We should heal from this together." I deleted it before the message ended. Vivian did not disappear after that night. She recommended Marlowe Estate services to 3 families in her circle, and for the first time, people called me not because they needed a cleaner, but because they needed someone they could trust inside rooms full of valuables, grief, and secrets. 6 months later, I moved my business into a brighter office with tall windows and hired 2 full-time employees. I put my name on the glass door without shrinking the letters. Marlowe Estate Services. Founder, Lena Marlowe. One afternoon, while clearing out my old storage unit, I found the navy dress from the engagement dinner folded in a garment bag. I held it for a while, remembering the white roses, my father's laugh, my mother's hand on my shoulder, and Vivian Whitaker going still across the table. I kept the dress, not because it reminded me of being humiliated, because it reminded me of the night everyone finally saw who had been cleaning up whose mess. They introduced me as the house cleaner, but by the end of dinner, everyone knew I was the only one who had ever kept that family clean.